Oh, okay, so we are very, very pleased to be joined by Robin Soobramanie, Director of Security Operations at Woodbine Entertainment. We're joined by John McDermid as himself, and we're joined by Gurjinder Bains, Director of Security and Investigations at Royal Canadian Security Corp. You are most welcome. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good, thank you.
Very good, and thank you for being nice and vocal throughout the event. It's always good to for you to see the other panels. We're talking corporate security modernization. We're talking the physical security service of the future, as we did in the last panel. But specifically, we are wondering if threat intel is the glue, right? When we're looking for this end customer MSP MSS relationship, how can we improve it? Maybe the glue that can hold it all together is threat intel. So why don't we start off with maybe a very simple question, and I'll give it to John and work my way around. What are we talking about when we're talking about threat intel? Because on the cyber side, I'm sure it means the same thing as the physical side, but we need a definition for this panel, don't we?
First off, before I answer your question, I want to thank you very much for inviting me, and being the only Albertan here, I kind of feel it's a privilege to be amongst all these knowledgeable security experts. And so, to answer your question, in short, my entire career has been based on threat intel. I do what's called security through intelligence-led security, or as the police say, intelligence-led policing. That way, we learn how to deploy our resources in the most economical manner, and where the hotspots are, and to react and or be proactive to the situation. So we analyze the data that's coming in through the IT side. We look at the trends and the scopes of what's happening, and then we deploy our physical resources in the appropriate manner. And sometimes it's I kind of put it in the kin of lighting a bunch of fires to make it look like your force is bigger than what it actually is. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I like it, force multiplier, because imagine you're a solo operator, suddenly, boom, you have all this intel. Gurjinder, threat intel, is it the glue that will hold all these third-party relationships together? Because now maybe you've got threat intel in your pocket. Is it the force multiplier?
It is. Without it, I don't see how you can effectively, do your job. Like, for instance, like right now I'm at a labor dispute, and we have our threat intel coming in every now and then, letting us know what the union is doing. If there's any car rallies or any bolstering of numbers, that kind of stuff. Without that, we'd be blind. And your frontline guards need that information, and without that information, they're really they won't be as effective.
And I see this then tying in with a lot of other topics, because just as Mark was talking about the use of robots, for frontline workers, they can be the provider of threat intel, and it frees up the individual operator to do so much more. But Robin, welcome, and Stephen in the audience is very pleased to see you.
Nice to see you too, Steve.
As am I. I just thought I'd call it out. Doesn't threat intel have to be actionable? Isn't there a glut of threat intel? Like, people complain they go on a mission to Egypt, and then some provider tells them about the pyramids. Doesn't it have to be actionable?
Yeah, when you look at threat intel, it is the basis of how we plan, right? As security professionals, we look at the intel that's coming in for us to properly plan, like Gurjinder just mentioned about his strike detail. So to me, it is very important to get that. Did I answer your question? Sorry.
Yeah. I guess. But what makes it actionable? What makes it just noise?
Well, it has to be credible, right? It has to be credible to make it actionable, right? You're going to have all kinds of information that's coming at you, and you have to filter through them and determine what those priorities are going to be.
Okay, I like that. Let's run with that. Being able to filter. Suddenly, again, the cyber colleagues in the audience are going to be saying, "Hang on a minute, I know a solution," and so, John, is threat intel then the main area where both sides of the house can collaborate? Given that you might be getting your filtered threat intel from a SOC, and that SOC is not just some person staring at a screen. It deals in SOCMint, OSINT. It's got everything there.
Well, it's got to come in at you at a whole, and then you have to have a person to filter it through and realize what is effective to that particular assignment or task or culture at that time. For example, downtown Edmonton a few years ago created a downtown security network when each business or each stakeholder in the area collaborated with each other because we dealt with the same threats or the same priority and prolific offenders all the time. So we collaborated, we've multiplied our force, our footprint, we expanded our defense and layer outward for more than just the building that we're working at. We created a 6-block radius on how to look, and then we collaborated effectively with the local police force on how to maintain the safety and security of all users in the downtown area. However, that said, this last 12, 15 months, the natural surveillance in this area has virtually disappeared, and now we've got the priority and prolific offenders owning that space because there's nobody there keeping that culture in check. So now the community isn't policing itself. So how do we effectively deal with this outwardly? And that's part of the problem. And this is where it comes down to bulk intelligence. And we know that the crime rate, for example, in my city of Edmonton is spiking. We could have anticipated that from happening because everybody is in their home and now not at the workplace. And now the workplaces are the targeted and not the homes. So this is all anticipated forethought thinking that, well, where there's people, they're going to go the opposite direction where there isn't protection and security. So, yeah.
All right. Well, then you raise a good point, of course, about the last 12 months with people not being quite where you thought they might be. Gurjinder, what about people's home environments as a threat vector? Because, I mean, certainly we've heard anecdotal evidence of hostile terminations being slightly unusual, given that they can literally rock up at someone's home, and you can't defend all that perimeter. Has it truly been that sort of transformation, or some other transformation? Do we need threat intel on every executive's home now?
Well, you can never have enough information, right? And then it's in industry, information is always key. It's always good to get as much as you can, and then you can decipher it. If I'm protecting a VIP's home, yeah, I mean, I want my OSINT team to be running 24/7, and just get as much as you can, and let's filter it through and see what is going to be actionable for us, what we can use. Is there any physical threats out there? Like, is there somebody that is planning on something? And I've done lots of files where that's happened, where, like, a corporate CEO, someone got fired, and now he's going after the CEO of whatever, right? And we're literally staking out this guy's residence to see where he goes. And also we had a couple of teams at the CEO's house, so we're doing both ends, right? And we're getting we're covering the CEO, but we're also covering the bad guy in this case, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's costly, but it has to be done. Without that, again, you're blind, right? And I don't know any security company or security management that would do without. You need as much as you can, because it's life or death, right? If it's not life or death, yeah, you can scale back. But if it's life or death, you scale up massively, yeah.
So massively scale up, and then before in our last panel we talked about the evolution of the Department of No to the Department of Everything. You know, and in previous EP related panels, people will remember everyone saying, well, you're going to have to pick up a bag. You're not going to be able to say no, because you are the Department of Everything. But yeah, well then, Robin, let's think of the corporate security professional of tomorrow. What do you think after this pandemic experience the CEO is going to look for in their corporate security director of tomorrow? Beyond everything, right? I put it to you that a grasp or a better grasp of threat intel is one thing that they're going to want. But what do you think?
So I think in the security field, and I mean, being in the security field as long as I've been with Woodbine, the CEO looks, of course, once, you know, for it's looking at the whole team. Sorry, guys, but as we went from a corporate security world where we dealt with threat assessment, managing staff, managing people, managing incidents and emergencies, to when we got the pandemic actually changed us. Like you said, the pandemic, we started doing everything. Like, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. There's nobody in the building. So security would have to go and reboot computers for people who are working remotely. Right? So we have those things. And as we go forward, they're looking to security as to do more, right? I mean, when did we ever think that we were going to do screening or taking temperature, right? Or enforcing people wearing masks? When did we ever think we were going to do that? I didn't. It was where the team and all of us had to adapt very quickly to get that done. And the executive team looked at us as yeah, these are the people, these are the resources, this is a department that he had to rely on.
And I mean, Stephen in the audience says excellent points, Robin, and I agree, because I mean, if there was any other clear evidence that a cybersecurity MSS might need to dabble at least a little bit in physical security, this is it. The ability to go and turn on or off a server, right? But you're going to want to trust that person. It's not just anybody, it's someone trusted. So I think this is great. John, then you know, today's MSS forum, we're in Toronto, we're in Canada, right? And of course we're including Alberta, right? What then is the core of the modernization we've seen over the last 12 months? In the previous panel, we asked if maybe it was a balance between technology and you know, recruitment and diversity. Is the end effect actually of all this threat intel technology that people try and sell to you, the removing of paperwork, the freeing you up, and as we said with Mark and the robot you know, discussion, you know, giving you meatier things to work on?
That's a good question. I'm a bit of a traditionalist when it comes down to security. I believe in the human interaction. I believe in empathy-led security. I believe in emotional intelligence when dealing with customers. Doesn't matter where they are in their life. It's getting very difficult for me to answer that question, because what I'm seeing is, and I've saw the trends on different forums, is with this call of defunding a police agency, security is taking the steps in and starting doing minor police role stuff. So that sort of thing cannot be completely digitized for legal reasons and for just dealing with the interaction of towards other human beings. That I think that always needs a human touch. And it's, some of my mentors have always said, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And if you do it with class, if you do it with style, you could achieve your end points. Sure, using computers and iPads and stuff like that will help mitigate or help reduce the amount of equipment a security operator will have to carry with them. But IT information or IT stuff can fail, but pen and paper doesn't. So I don't know. I kind of like the most secure notepad that I've got. That's right here. So it can't be hacked and it can't be decrypted because nobody could read my handwriting. So that's where I'm at.
It reminds me of that Avengers movie with Samuel L. Jackson saying you can't hack. Anyway, and yeah. So Gurjinder, obviously this event is also about working with third parties. It's working with, your outsourced third parties. After all of this pandemic era might eventually finish, do you think we're going to have a better relationship with these third parties? Now, I also asked this in the context of what we're going to do after this panel, which is we're going to go hard into third-party vulnerability and liability, right? So I wonder the physical security third party, has it taken a center stage because of COVID, or is everything going to go in-house?
Good question. I think you should have it in-house if you're big enough. But like the smaller companies, they probably won't utilize it in any IT. However, saying that, it depends on your job, on your site. Do you need it? And if you need it, you got to get it. You got to put it into your budget. You got to let the customer know or the client know that we need a cyber unit to help us out, because like physical security, you're always going to need. You're always going to need that person to be the first contact, the person, whether they're opening the door or like doing the COVID thing, handing out masks. It's your customer service, right? Even 20 years down the road, if we have robots, people are always going to have a disdain for robots, right? They're always going to have that human interaction. So whether it's, so you're always going to have physical security guards there. And you want to equip them, like I said before, with all the information that you can get. If there's any pictures if there's any bolos out there for, such and such a person, you want this person to be, briefed before they get on shift, so they can see these people. Having said that, with the company I work for, work along with as well, they have a great OSINT team, and without them, I couldn't do the job that I'm doing. Even like investigations or any investigations or surveillance, you have to have it. We shouldn't think of it as a third party or, the other IT guys. I know that's one of the things that security guards, we tend to think in this industry is that, it's just the IT guys. They're the nerds in the basement. But you can't think that. They're also a security team. But their expertise is cyber. And our expertise as guards and security officers is physical, right? It's the eye on the ground. Even cameras cannot replace a physical security guard. There's no way, because all the cameras do is they catch somebody. If they have, good clarity, you can catch somebody on camera, but then who's going to go after the guy, right? This industry kind of needs to change where, instead of having like here in BC, we have your regular security guard, your basic security training. Then you have your advanced security training, which includes handcuffing, and you know you can if you catch somebody, you can arrest them. I think that needs to be expanded. We got to get away from the observe and report. Let the guy go, or no, you got to go get him, right? Because then there's going to be no deterrent for this guy. And cameras are not a deterrent. I've seen that on the downtown east side, where a lot of the homeless and drug addicted people, they hang out. There's so much step down there. Cameras there, but it's useless because all you're doing is you're just gathering stats, right? You're not preventing anything. So getting back, with the cyber department, your cyber and your physical security have to be on the same page. One can't think that we're better than the other. It has to be together. And then literally it's like a triangle, right? At the top, you're going to have your director of security, and then you get at the bottom two ends. So you're going to have physical security and you have cyber security, and that triangle would be your security department, and you should be very well covered with that. Without it, you're not covered at all.
And that covering your bases, I think, is a nice segue into this sort of final idea I've got, and it connects with our discussion on third-party risk management, which we're going to do next. Robin, then is not the true value of all this threat intel in this disparate working environment your ability to effectively onboard people or onboard third parties or work with them or gain visibility into things that are going to come and hit you later if you didn't do it, because you can't just leave it to procurement to do a due diligence check on some sort of OSINT system or man guarding partner. There's a degree of active threat hunting that you've got to do, isn't there?
Yeah, correct. As you're looking at onboarding, we do use a third-party company that does all the reference checks and of course background checks on that individual. So I mean that is important because we don't really have the resources to do it on our own, right? And plus it's faster having somebody else do it, that you can always rely on that information from their credibility.
But the buck still stops with the corporate security function, though, and so your ability to get threat intel on these services, I think that's going to be key. Has there been an uptick in your requirement, given that maybe your staff couldn't get from A to B during these lockdowns?
Good question, but could you rephrase that there?
Has threat intel become more important over these lockdowns, given that fewer people can travel, even if they're essential workers?
No, you're correct. Threat intel is very important because there's fewer people can travel. There's more people working from home. There's even within the IT security is that training on deploying the laptops and devices people have to use.
I like it. All right. Well then, let's do a quick tour de force. Where does this leave the physical security service of the future? John?
Well, I think it's a very good question. After watching all the panelists up till us, I kind of think that the key is to remain flexible and fluid. And in order to do that, you got to collaborate with your colleagues in the cyber side, because it's so integrated with our day-to-day lives nowadays that we need to have that shared language, and we need to understand each person's perspective, and then that way we get a better picture. This kind of goes into the diversity. In some special operations groups, they take a perspective from every member of that team, be it the lowest rank to the highest rank, and that's a diversity of thought. So carry that into the civilian world. You look at it and talk to the different people. You even talk to the customer service representative that's there, or the receptionist who's only funneling information somewhere. You know, having that picture to wherever you're going, understanding that each member of that team is a vital component to your success, health, and safety. Because realize when we do a risk analysis, majority of the times we're only doing a risk analysis on things that are known to us. In the last 20 years, we've experienced threats that are unknown to us, and every time somebody's highlighted this, oh, what if there's a shooter that shoots out of a hotel in Las Vegas into a concert? Oh, that will never happen. What if two planes fly into a building because that's a terrorist act? Oh, that will never happen. So we got to start, and I'm going to say this, thinking outside the circle instead of outside the box, because that's another concept. We're already framing ourselves in a box. So we've got to think outside that loop, because we're always in that loop. We want to go in a straight line. We want to see where the direction of travel is. And if we're lost, we got to stop what we're doing, think about where we want to go, observe our environment, and plan our way forward. So yeah, we always have to understand where we are, where we're going, and what we're doing, and using all the tools and team members involved. That will help us, in my opinion. It sounds
also like threat intel to me. I might be, you know, in vain searching for the glue that holds the MSS, MSP, and end user together, but I'm hoping it's threat intel. Gurjinder, what then do you hope we can reflect upon when, you know, at the end of today? We've had our cyber panels, our physical panels, our converged panels, and this threat intel panel, for example. What do you hope we could have at least tried to achieve?
What we need to achieve is what would be the best for the client. What are their needs, and what can we bring to them using all the tools that we have in our toolbox? So we have our risk assessment team, which does the threat intel. You got the cyber side, the OSINT side. You want to scour everything physically and also, you know, on the web as well. So you really got to integrate. And as the other gentleman was saying, like, you got to be fluid. You got to have that human element to it where, you know, what can go wrong. It's almost like you have to have an EP mentality, right? And where you're just always scanning, always watching, always learning something new. Thinking about, you know, situations that you never would have thought of before, right? And I know your physical guards aren't going to be up to that level, but we want to get to that level, right? We want to make sure that everyone is top notch. Like for me personally, when I hire somebody, because, you know, I'm kind of small, I can literally, you know, sometimes be invited to their home. I want to see how they live. You know, is this the person really living up to, you know, how he's saying he was in the interview, right? I want to know who his friends are, that kind of stuff. I mean, I find a way of doing it, right? I'm not a nosy guy. I just one of those guys that everybody likes to invite over, right? So, but that's how I get my intel on my people. Even when I'm working at say I'm working at a hotel, I want to talk to the janitors, to these people, because they have the keys. They have the keys to the building. If anybody's stealing, it's going to be someone who's got the keys, right? So you want to know these people. You want to know who they're talking to, that kind of stuff. And you can't always be, you can't always act like the boss at times. Sometimes you got to dumb it down a bit just so you can get all this intel. So that's it. Yeah. So intel it's important. It's like that triangle, right? You can't get away without that. It's the umbrella that every company needs. And I don't know why some companies don't bring that on. It's not the future. It's not even now. It's like 5 years ago, right? This is it's an old thing, and I don't know why people don't have it integrated yet. I'm hoping they will in the future. Even now, because like, man, this world is not getting better. It's not getting more peaceful, right? It's not. There's more threats coming up and up. So again, and I always want to thank you for inviting me, and this has been great, and I'm going to keep listening to the other panelists as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thanks for coming as well. And I know how what you mean about everyone's important, including the butler, for example. And I know it's a segue, but I put in the chat one of the recent podcasts we did as part of the Circuit magazine with Simeon Rosette, and where you realize that the butler, the janitor, they've all got the keys to what you want, which is as important for the managed service provider as it is for corporate security service. So I know we're a little over time, but Robin, where does this then leave the physical or the managed security service? Because I'm sure people knock on your door and say, "Oh, please work with us, please work with us." Where does this all leave the MSS?
Well, as we're talking about, the different sector within physical security, intelligence, right, and cybersecurity. So with us, if you look at our setup here, there's a convergence, but it's very slow, right? It's about breaking down those silos, and I think this conference here is great to break down those silos. Like physical security reports to one tree in my end, and IT security and cybersecurity reports to another. So it's where we have these working groups, but as listen to this, what everybody's talking about today, and what you're saying, is that it is going to converge. It's going to come to one where wherever you get intelligence or threats, you need to bring it to one area so we all can work together instead of us working against each other.
Love it. And that's a great sentiment to end on. Threat intel and the MSS of tomorrow. Robin, John, and Gurjinder, thank you very much for such a great panel. Please give them a virtual round of applause.